Within 1 hour of creating my character, I had stopped engaging with combat at all and was fully focused on gathering and processing resources to spur the development of the local city node. While this game takes a long time to level, it really allows you to make a meaningful difference as early as level 3. But how to start and get into a nice routine that optimizes your impact from hour 1? That's what we'll be working through in this guide. First though, remember that this is very early alpha. The game will change before release. I'll keep making content that's relevant with the goal of creating a library of useful information for those of us who prefer building to fighting. For now, we'll go through the basic principles to keep in mind as guidelines for your progression, followed by a step-by-step guide that I used on my second character to feel completely set up and participating in my first hour of gameplay. Timestamps for skipping around included, and with that out of the way, let's start with... As artisans, it will be our jobs to keep the cities well repaired and functioning so the more warlike players have the amenities to fight and win advantages for our city. The core system Ashes of Creation currently uses to simulate this is the requisition agent that can be found in each city next to the storage clerk. Each time the mayor of a city wants to build something new, requisitions have to be filled, and for each service provided by the city, regular requisitions must be met to maintain access to the service. This creates a constant demand for even the most basic of resources, and I can only imagine the raw throughput needed once we gain access to node evolution. A quick example here can be these standard tools. You have to turn in 5 zinc and 10 basalt for each requisition, and the mayor, on behalf of the city, needs a total of 1500 requisitions filled. That's 7500 zinc and 15,000 basalt. Each time you fill a requisition, the good, in this case standard tools, will be added to the city's inventory. This can be accessed by the mayor to pay for building upkeep, create new buildings, and so on. As a reward for filling these requisitions, you gain a script-like currency that can be used at certain city vendors to purchase rewards. Currently, a good target would be to have about 1500 script at level 10, as that would allow you to instantly purchase a full set of level 10 uncommon gear. Understanding that this is the system we're supporting helps us pick out what resources to keep an eye out for as we roam the wilderness. Another system that helps us advance faster is represented by the commissions, personalized quests that require you to gather a certain resource a certain amount of times. In the current build, you can take all the posted commissions at once, as long as you don't have your commission list filled with combat-oriented commissions as well. Each commission you complete gives you a small chunk of experience in both combat and the relevant artisan skill, as well as glint. The experience is comparable to your share of a single 3-star enemy of similar level, so this isn't in any way competitive with grinding mobs for combat experience, but it does allow you a bit of extra leveling on the side. The glint is a welcome little monetary addition, but can be lost like any material if you die. To avoid this, simply wait and don't complete the commission until you're safely back in the settlement where you can store or sell your glints. You won't have the inventory or tool durability to complete all your commissions on the same trip, so simply focus on those that align with the requisition orders back home. The commissions don't take your resources afterwards, they simply want you to do the action of gathering, which allows you to progress and help out your chosen settlement simultaneously. This all brings us to more personal goals. Our primary goal as we level should be efficiency. Anything that can let us gather faster, carry more, or in other ways keep our time spent down gives us, and by extension our communities, a competitive edge. Thus, I would keep the goal in mind of getting novice gathering tools as quickly as possible. This upgrade from the free new player tools has a significant reduction in time spent on each gathering, and their durability goes up from 60 to 150, allowing us to harvest about 2.5 times as many notes of a specific type during a single trip. I have collected a list of every resource you need to create a full set of novice gathering tools. You will need 51 oak logs, 21 flax, 32 copper, and 3 basalt. I recommend gathering these during your trips and having them stored in your preferred settlement to be ready for when you have enough. The oak logs need to be processed into oak planks at the sawmill shown here, the flax into linen thread at the weavery, the copper into copper fragments at the forge, and the basalt into basalt weapon molds at the stonemason table. Each of these takes a minute from when you start them and can be done in batches of 1, 5, 10, 25, 50, 100 or 250. For things like the oak logs, I recommend putting them in a large batch early so you don't have to wait for their completion when you're almost finished. This processing takes fuel. Each organic material has a fuel value. Most flowers have a value of 1, oak logs 10, and the most efficient fuel I've found so far is the western larchwood at a value of 25. This means that a single log can fuel 25 planks being processed or 25 flax, etc. Though it doesn't carry carry between jobs. Spend a large log on a single plank and it will be spent. In total you need 107 fuel for the processing you need done. It will not be difficult to obtain. 11 extra oak logs or a smattering of whatever you bring back will do. Your bottleneck will not be the fuel or oak logs though. It will be copper. Copper is used for every single novice tools, and your most important tools at the beginning, the axe, pickaxe and sickle, each require 10 copper fragments. Copper is hard to spot. It looks like iron, both having a reddish cast, but the copper has green splotches as copper exposed to air oxidizes and turns green. I ride up to almost every iron I pass to be certain, as copper really is that scarce right now. I would always pick up copper, zinc, rubies and flax when I spot them, as they are way less convenient to farm than any other novice tier resource in the current build. Tools also gain large bonuses if you spend rarer qualities of materials to craft them. If you come across enough high quality materials to upgrade a tool from common to uncommon, rare or beyond, that increases your bonuses significantly, boosts durability and will even unlock new bonuses at rare or above. Note that tools are bound to your character. You can't carry multiple, and once you craft a new tool, your old tool is immediately destroyed. Sometimes it might be worth making a new tool of rarer quality instead of upgrading an old tool, but that's a personal decision. More on tool rarities at the end of the video. One last thing to keep in mind early is the potential of caravans. Saving up your glint for a caravan will allow you to get roughly 13 times as much gold for the glint as selling it to the vendor gives you. Quite a step up. Of course, that comes with its own risk of banditry as you transport it. I'll be making an entire video on caravans next, which you can make sure to catch by subscribing to the channel now. Until then, the most important thing for you to remember is that storing glint instead of selling it is a winning strategy long term. Of course, there's a lot more depth to explore, but this gives you the overview to get started. And speaking of overview, it's time to start your journey. For your character's combat class, you shouldn't worry too much. Any class can gather and craft the same. You might think that it would be worth looking up which class does best in solo content, but in most areas you will be gathering, the enemies will be unkillable for you for a long time. Going around them is often the wiser course. What I have found though is that having a class with good movement can mean a lot. I picked a bard which gets access to a little dash. This dash doesn't lose height, so I can use it to cross between cliffs that would either be risky jumps or sometimes even impossible jumps. Wizards and rangers should also have some cool movement mechanics, but I haven't tested them. You could look up a class guide or two to find the one you prefer. Once you have made your choice, you will be spawned into Lionhold. Getting out of here quickly is the key, as the sheer amount of people present can make your computer lag, as you can see mine does. Find Gatewatcher Pritchard and get her quest. Then move out to the right and come down this hill. On your way down, kill 3 sickly goblins. Again, a lot of people here, so I suggest finding one just as it spawns and then hitting it with everything you have. The person that deals the most damage to it will get the credit. This allows you to check out your skill and auto attack rotation, as well as upgrade your amulet by talking to Scout Hadrick a little further down the hill. I don't quite know what this does, but it's a little out of the way and many people seem to miss it, so I want it. After this, talk to Officer Talahad down in the town. He will send you to the nearby Ember Spring, which you can interact with by pressing F near it and clicking OK to attune it. After returning to him, the core tutorial is done and the game doesn't hold you a hand on where to go next. We have 2 goals before we can get started on our artisan journey. We need to unlock our movement spell, which on Bard requires level 3, and we need to get our horse, which comes at the end of the introduction to the artisan system. Thus, we will pick up 3 quests here. Jaren Umber will ask us to visit one of the towns out in the nodes, and thereby introduce us to their warehouses where we can store our materials. Billmaster Harold will introduce us to combat commissions, which are simple killer scout quests. You can have up to 30 active commissions at one time, so you can simply pick all of them up, but in 30 seconds it will become clear why this has drawbacks. I'll end up doing Ceaseless Cackles and the Lay of the Land commissions to get to level 3. The third and final quest we'll be picking up is from Trade Manager Hernet. This is the quest line introducing us to gathering and processing in Ashes of Creation. It also gives us a horse, which is really important because making any mount, including a simple horse, later in the game will cost 62 silver. So get the free one here before venturing forth. First, Hernet will ask us to cut down and process a piece of weathered oak. They're just around the building. The disadvantage of taking this many commissions is that when the quest isn't tracked, you can't see its area on the minimap, when you can only have 10 track quests. So even though I'd just done this a couple of hours early on a testing character, I completely forgot where to look and had to manually switch which quests I was tracking. Anyways, weathered oak in hand, you can go to this lumber milling table and put it in. 15 seconds later, you can talk to Hernet again and send after eroded granite. To mine that, you have to create a tool at this mining tools table. So now you're introduced to both gathering, processing and crafting. The artisan trinity is complete. Use the pickaxe to mine the granite here, pop it into the stonemasonry here and talk to Hernet again to be sent on a quest for the the third gatherable, flowers. The stale snowdrop grows just north of Hernet, where I originally wrongly went for wood. Harvest it and then go to the nearby alchemy table. Don't mind me going to the one on the other side of town. Process it and get back to Hernet. Hernet will send you slightly to the east to pick up your horse from Stablemaster Pile. Put your horse in your bar and then whistle it out of your horse pocket, because now we get to leave Lionhold. Let's get our first couple of levels. The commission Ceaseless Cackles requires killing 30 goblins in the Ruin of Arla just to the right as we leave Lionhold. Again, with a lot of people doing this, getting enough damage done to get the kills can be hard. I recommend solving this by inviting 1 or 2 other people in the area to a group, so you can run around together and be sure to do more damage than randoms. Sometimes you might get into a group where you're vibing and decide to do more content. It didn't happen to me this time, but what I'm saying is, don't let following this guide get in the way of fun. You can always pick this up again once your group tapers off. Anyways, as my group fell apart, I quickly did the second commission Lay of the Land by moving out into the parapet here. Commissions can be completed directly from your journal at any time. Now back to the goblin slaying. I found a nice spot where people generally didn't contest me too much, and as the 30th goblin fell, I'd gotten a bit into level 3 and was ready to move on. Before completing Hernet's request, there was one last thing to do in Lionhold. These commissions has given you a bit of glint, and so have the goblins. Come over to Gerald Belfort and right-click your glint to sell it to him. Then scroll down to the bottom where he has some profession bags to sell. I know I just told you to save your glint for caravans, but these bags are critical. They give bonus inventory space for your gatherables, and each bag comes with an increase to stack size for the proper resource. Logs in a novice lumberjacking bag can stack to 43 instead of 20, and so on. I chose a lumberjacking and mining bag, as lumber is the most common resource and mined nodes take up more space than herbs, so having larger stack sizes for those large resources seem good. Hunting and fishing are both professions you generally have to go out of your way to fill up on, but you definitely can. Just pick the 2 bags you prefer and equip them by pressing the plus button in the interface. And finally, our journey begins as we leave Lionhold for the final time to go deliver Hernet's package. Quick tip as you watch me travel by foot the first stretch here: if your horse is nearby, the whistle dismisses it from where it is, and whistling again resummons it beside you, so press twice if it doesn't work the first time. The world has now opened up to us and we have a clear goal. We need the 51 oak logs, 21 flax, 32 copper and 3 basalt to make our first full set of tools. And higher quality ingredients mean higher quality tools, so keeping that in mind as we gather is good. Talking to trades rep Deshawn finished off the introduction to crafting gathering. This is an important step because in a handful of hours, when you're level 10 in a gathering or crafting skill, this is one of the 2 locations you need to remember to upgrade your skills from novice to apprentice. The other one is called Briarmore Farms to the east. The little diamond dots are the actual locations and each hosts 2 of the game's artisan skills. For now, sell your resources to the nearest vendor to avoid losing it when or if you die, attune to the local Ember Spring, and let's set out. Each resource you gather gives you both artisan and combat experience, so starting out we're all about quantity. Our tools have a durability of 60, so we can gather 60 trees, 60 ores and so on. We don't have the backspace for the output of that, so while traveling I generally skip common trees as they are the easiest to find. I do however stop when I see flowers, ores or stones that aren't guarded by monsters. Our goal is to gather our way out towards one of the node cities. I will end up in Jova as that's where I got closest by following the trail of interesting things to gather. You might end up somewhere else or have a preference for a town and go off in that direction. From here the guide is less about following me closely and more about thinking about the principles we have. Novice tools for now, with new agendas opening up as we reach the node city for the first time. Speaking of, boom, we're there. While there's no fast traveling in the game, editing's magic. Moving into a node city for the first time, find the storage clerk. Talking to them finishes the last quest we picked up in Lionhold, and the storage clerk now allows you to store materials. You can choose a specialization for your storage, but I find that I need the extra space for rarity. Specialization is probably more relevant as you open up access to more storage for gold later. The local vendors sell gear and materials for cooking and farming, as well as allow for gear repair, including that of our tools, by the blue buttons in the bottom left of their window. Moving over to the requisition agent, you can see the current buy order the mayor of the town has requisitioned to help maintain and expand the town. Keeping an eye out for matching resources as you leave for harvesting adventures will allow you to contribute and already be a big help to your local government. We're only about an hour in at this point and can already begin delivering real important contributions to the game's economy. Nearby the requisition agent, you can also find the trade commissions board. Here the commissions are all about gathering different stuff. Pick up all of these and make a habit of doing that each time you enter town at the end of an expedition. expedition. This will get you a passive bonus to both XP and glint you generate, even if you don't attempt to complete them specifically. As you leave town on your first expedition, remember that most mobs will outlevel you dramatically. I won't be fighting anything for the next 3-ish hours. Most mobs you can outrun on horse, many even on foot, especially with movement abilities. Wolves are the terrible exception. Make sure to never be near a wolf. They have a jump attack that they will spam to instantly catch up to you continually, no matter what you do. Run around these. From here, it's really up to you to find the local route you prefer to follow. I'll be using footage from my routes in all my materials, but if a video like this becomes popular, the route will rarely work for people anymore. As you move about in the world, note any place where many stone outcroppings have spawned close to each other, or where an entire field of flowers have bloomed. They might not always spawn like that, but they probably will again. Make these the waypoints along your route, and between them look for either large open areas for flowers or stony ledges for rocks and ore. Following along these will help you find a steady stream of resources. Remember that the resource you will be stuck on for tools is copper, so let that be a glorious moment each time you find it. But take paths towards it that are filled with the resources your city needs. If you want to boost your processing and crafting skills, there are ways to do that as well without losing too much money on the processing fees. Since I want to play with caravans, I chose carpentry as the crafting skill to focus on and found that a caravan carriage sells for 1 silver 50 copper to the vendor, and the processing fees and money made from selling raw resources only add up to 2 silver 20 copper for 2, so for each carriage I earn 20 copper in comparison to selling the logs directly. That's a small profit, but it is a profit I'm making while grinding up my skills. Skipping ahead 3.5 hours, I finally found the copper to make my first tools. If you can buy or trade some from your server community, that might make this happen faster, but here I am. This is the point where you have to pick a tool to build first. I'm going to be a carpenter, so lumberjacking is the most useful tool for me. However, I'm already a level 7 lumberjack, and at level 10 the apprentice tools become available for crafting in towns that have the appropriate building, and Jova has a sawmill. I end up picking up the axe anyways, with the logic that I will spend more time cutting down wood, and it did sometimes break during previous expeditions. You might make a different choice here depending on which tool you find most useful. I will show you how rarity affects the tool effectiveness as an appetizer for the apprentice gathering and crafting, which I will make a video on later. The rarity of an item is determined by the rarity of materials you put in when crafting a given item, but the system is also made so that you can choose which items to go in across rarities. Do you only have 2 legendary western large timber, 5 rare timber and 3 uncommon? That adds up to 10, and each of the higher quality beams of timber you put in will pull up the item's stats a little bit. I lost some footage here that shows my experiments, but basically if you add some rare materials but not enough, it will give you slightly higher stats on the tool without increasing the rarity. Each time you reach a threshold, the resultant tool will increase in rarity and gain a major amount of stats, sometimes even new properties. When I crafted my apprentice lumberjack axe, not only did the base stats of 136 speed rating and 34 rarity rating go up to 235 speed rating and 75 rarity rating, it gained a new effect of 62 more quantity rating. I believe therefore that it is useful to think of rarity as less of an either or and more of a sliding scale with some breakpoints. Anything affecting the scale will increase the effectiveness of the tool, and once you reach the breakpoints, a larger bonus will be applied. While I've been unable to tell the difference in lumber rarity drops after obtaining this axe, the quantity is quite clear, as adult trees sometimes drop 6 instead of 5 logs. Not bad at all. It's a shame that tools aren't items and can't be handed off like combat gear. There appears to be no soul binding in the game, but a gatherer's tool is an extension of themselves, and when we craft a new one, the previous tool is simply replaced. I'm really stoked about this artisan system. I truly feel like I'm progressing meaningfully without engaging in the game's combat at all. I can't wait to get deeper into the apprentice level mechanics and caravans in future videos. If you have any questions you might want me to investigate in the game, leave them as a comment and I'll see what I can get around to during testing. And if you're a very dedicated gamer like I am, you might be playing multiple MMOs. I do guides for gold gain in Guild Wars 2 too if you feel like checking them out. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next Ashes of Creation video on caravans.